Chapter 721. Feng Yuan was brimming with confidence. She looked at the bottle of medicinal liquid that had been delivered to her. She opened it and prepared to sniff out the medicinal liquid's composition. She did not believe that the medicinal liquid refined by Luo Qingtong would be able to stop her. In this world, there were no rare medicinal ingredients that she did not know. However, when she opened the bottle, she was completely dumbfounded. What is this? Feng Yuan looked at the bottle of medicinal liquid that was presented in front of him in shock. Was this a medicinal liquid? The spirit qi contained in it was extremely thin. Not only that, but the medicinal energy contained within was weak and heterogeneous. Feng Yuan had lived for so long, but she had never seen such a heterogeneous and weak medicinal energy. This was a bottle of medicinal liquid. How could there be such a trashy medicinal liquid? Feng Yuan's eyes were filled with disbelief. She had grown up in a wealthy family. She had seen from a young age that even a strand of grass contained more spiritual energy than this medicinal liquid. At this moment, looking at this bottle of medicinal liquid in front of her, she was completely at a loss. The first princess of the Great Yong dynasty had never seen the cheap medicinal ingredients of the lowest-ranked countries. Not to mention this kind of low-grade medicinal liquid that ordinary people could use for no reason. She had never even touched it before. In an instant, Feng Yuan's brain crashed. She looked at the bottle of medicinal liquid in front of her, her mind completely blank. On the other side, Luo Qingtong had already begun to leisurely speak of the medicinal ingredients in the bottle of medicinal liquid refined by Feng Yuan. Her speaking speed was extremely slow, stopping as she thought. It was as if she was waiting for Feng Yuan to catch up. However, no matter how much Feng Yuan racked her brains, she did not have the slightest impression of those cheap and low-grade medicinal ingredients. Her complexion was extremely unsightly. If it were not for that blank jade-white mask covering her face, it was likely that everyone around the central stage would be able to see her unsightly and ashen complexion. Wow! It can't be. What's the matter with this divine heavenly doctor? She can't even recognize such a simple medicinal liquid? I know all about it. That's right. What heavenly doctor divine hands? Blowing his own trumpet was shameless. You can't even recognize such a simple medicinal liquid. I think I should be the heavenly holy doctor. Haha, that's right. Even with our eyes closed, we can tell the ingredients of this medicinal liquid. What a joke. Heavenly medical sage hand. Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong is obviously giving her a handicap, but she still can't win. I can't. I'm dying of laughter. This heavenly doctor wasn't here to compete, right? Is she here to be funny? There was a burst of laughter from below. Everyone looked at Feng Yuan on the stage, as if they were watching a joke. He's even a heavenly doctor. Not being able to identify the medicinal ingredients of such a simple medicinal liquid, it was really laughable. Just where did this heavenly doctor divine hand come from? Feng Yuan's expression was unspeakably ugly. Under the unsightly appearance, there was also an unbearable embarrassment. She boasted that her medical skills and medicine refining skills were not inferior to Luo Qingtong. In the end, she was crushed by the other party in such a manner in the first round. If she said that her speed was slower than Luo Qingtong, losing this round would still be alright. At least it would prove that her strength was not inferior to Luo Qingtong. It was just that her luck was slightly worse. She was one step behind, but now, she could not even name a single medicinal ingredient. But Luo Qingtong was neither hurried nor slow, as she named one medicinal ingredient after another. This kind of crushing made Feng Yuan feel extremely humiliated in her heart. Chapter 722. Haha, she can't say it out loud? Seeing this scene, Little Pig almost laughed himself to death. He thought Luo Qingtong was going to lose for sure. He thought Luo Qingtong was going to give the heavenly divine doctor a chance to win, and then crush him in the next 2 rounds. Little did he expect that the heavenly divine doctor couldn't say the ingredients of the low-grade medicinal liquid Luo Qingtong refined. Little Pig rolled around in Luo Qingtong's sleeve as he watched the heavenly divine doctor's sullen expression and the mocking laughter around him. Was there anything more face-slapping than this? Oh my god. Luo Qingtong's skill is simply amazing. Did you do it on purpose? How did you know she couldn't recognize it? Little Pig couldn't stop laughing. At the same time, he was full of admiration for Luo Qingtong. This face-slapping method was simply too ruthless. Other people would only slap the face, but Luo Qingtong's face-slapping was like a wheel rolling around. She used the cheapest and lowest-grade medicinal liquid to slap the face. Everyone knew about it, but that heavenly divine doctor didn't know about it. She slapped the heavenly divine doctor's face until it was swollen. The heavenly divine doctor claimed that Luo Qingtong's alchemy skills were inferior to hers. The more arrogant the heavenly divine doctor was, the more ruthless the face-slapping was. Simply amazing. Luo Qingtong was going to ascend to heaven. Luo Qingtong smiled but didn't say anything. That heavenly divine doctor was obviously from a prestigious family. She was extremely arrogant and condescending, and even spoke in an arrogant and bossy manner. How could she know about the low-grade medicinal liquid that even ordinary people could refine? Not to mention the ingredients used to refine the medicinal liquid. Most likely, when she first started to practice refining medicinal liquids, she started with precious medicinal herbs that ordinary people couldn't obtain, right? She directly skipped the refining steps of ordinary apprentice alchemists. This was the heavenly divine doctor's strong point, but it was also the heavenly divine doctor's weak point. I told you she can't win. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. As she spoke, a blood-red light flashed in her eyes. Not only did she want the other party to be unable to win, she wanted to completely crush him. He wanted the other party to remember this humiliation the moment he heard his name. The heavenly doctor's ability to refine medicine was stronger than the evil doctor's ghost eye? That was impossible. It was just a joke. Evil Doctor Ghost Eye. When Luo Qingtong said the name of another medicinal herb, Feng Wuan, who was almost driven mad by the ridicule of the surrounding people, finally exploded. She gritted her teeth and looked at Luo Qingtong. Don't be so smug. So what if you used such an opportunistic method to win this round? I'll crush you in the next 2 rounds. As she spoke, she turned around and faced the Blackfields people and the pharmacists on the stage. I admit defeat for this round. Let's move on to the next round. When Feng Wuan said this, his voice was trembling. She was too angry. She didn't expect this evil Dr. Ghost Eye to be so cunning. He actually used this kind of trashy medicinal liquid that only low-level martial artists and ordinary people could use for her to identify. Feng Wuan was the #1 princess of the Great Yong dynasty. She was also the #1 genius and a natural pharmacist. When had she ever touched this kind of trashy medicinal liquid? It was fine if she couldn't identify it. But she was also ridiculed by others who questioned her strength as a heavenly doctor. When had Feng Wuan suffered such ridicule and humiliation? Moreover, she had previously said that her refining ability was stronger than Luo Qingtong. At this moment, all of these words were thrown back at her with a slap in the face. Feng Wuan was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She directly admitted defeat for this round, so as to avoid suffering such ridicule and humiliation. In the next round, she wanted these people to know her true strength. Chapter 723. Alright, the first round, Evil Dr. Gui Tong wins. Following Feng Wuan's admission of defeat, the people at the Blackfield side directly announced that Luo Qingtong had won this round. Hua! Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong wins. Indeed, Lord Evil Doctor's strength is the strongest. A miraculous doctor who rose from nothing. Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong's true strength is not something that ordinary people can compare to, okay? Moreover, she is also an alchemist. If she didn't refine medicine to the extreme, how could she possibly refine pills? This heavenly doctor really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. That's right. You see that she admitted defeat just like that. And she even said that Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong relied on opportunistic methods to win. These words are really shameless. That's right. It's clearly her own foundation that is not solid enough. She can't even recognize the composition of this kind of low-level and simple medicinal liquid. And she still dares to say that it's Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong's fault. This ability to make a false accusation is also amazing. A group of people were discussing animatedly below the stage, looking down on Feng Wuan's words very much. If she lost, then she lost. She couldn't recognize the medicinal ingredients, and she still blamed Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong. You couldn't even catch the questions that others gave you, and you still have the face to say it? If they encountered this kind of situation, they would have long plunged their heads into the ground, wishing that they could bury themselves in a pile of soil, okay? Really too shameless. The group of people was very disdainful in their hearts. When Feng Wuan heard these words, she was so angry that she clenched her silver teeth tightly. What did these blind trash know? If evil Dr. Gui Tong didn't rely on this opportunistic method, she wouldn't have been able to win the first round at all, okay? She was just a person who only knew how to use unorthodox methods. In this round, she would let them see what a true genius alchemist was. Swish! Feng Wuan raised her hand and took back her bottle of medicinal liquid. She looked coldly at Luo Qingtong and said with a sneer, "This second round is competing on the effects of the medicinal liquid. Let's see who can maximize the effects of the medicinal liquid." Evil physician Gui Tong, in order to take advantage of the situation, you purposely concocted the most inferior and trashiest medicinal liquid. Let's see how much more effective this medicinal liquid can be. As she spoke, she smiled coldly and ordered someone to bring a martial artist up. That cultivator was a peak martial emperor. His face was deathly pale, as if he had taken some kind of poison or had some kind of injury on his body. Feng Wuan looked at the other party and said, "This person's internal organs were hit by an extremely insidious palm strike. If there is no treatment, his entire body will rot and turn into a pool of blood and die. The medicinal liquid in my hand can treat the injuries in his body. Watch carefully." As she spoke, she directly handed the medicinal liquid in her hand to that person and coldly said, "Drink it with the vinegar." The man trembled as he took the bottle of liquid medicine from her and drank it together with the vinegar that was served by the Blackfield people. Shwa! As soon as the medicinal liquid entered his mouth, his pale face began to slowly turn rosy. As soon as that person opened his mouth, he immediately felt that his voice had become full of energy. The pain in his internal organs also disappeared. He tried to shoot out a burst of energy. That burst of energy exploded on the stage. The attack power is very formidable. It didn't weaken the slightest bit. My injuries are healed. That martial artist doesn't dare to believe his eyes. His injuries were extremely serious. It was almost impossible to save him. That palm was practically going to shatter his internal organs. His opponent's medicinal liquid was able to cure him? That martial artist became extremely excited. Chapter 724. Before he could kneel down to thank Feng Wuan, a mysterious and proud smile suddenly appeared on the latter's face. "It's not over yet." Along with Feng Yuan's voice sounding out, an unexpected change suddenly occurred. That martial artist who was kneeling on the ground and was about to thank Feng Yuan suddenly exploded into a bloody mist one after another. Countless black auras spread out from the wounds, all over his body like vines, spreading all over his body. Those strands of black auras were very thick and solid. At first glance, it looked like countless black earthworms crawling on his body. Feng Yuan narrowed her eyes and sneered. Looking at Luo Qingtong, she raised her head proudly. "Ultimate medicine to ultimate poison. Evil Dr. Gui Tong, can you do it?" Feng Yuan's heart was full of pride. Her ultimate medicine to ultimate poison was a combination of medicine and poison. The dual attribute reversal was her trump card. She dared to say that in this world, other than those old freaks who had studied alchemy to the peak, no one else would be able to do what she did. She was a natural alchemist and had the talent to become an alchemist. What was evil Dr. Gui Tong? If the ultimate medicine and ultimate poison in Luo Qingtong's eyes was really neutralized by evil Dr. Gui Tong, then the other party would definitely be inferior to her, because that ultimate medicine and ultimate poison was only one of her methods. It couldn't be compared to the ultimate medicine to ultimate poison that she was using now. Extreme medicine and extreme poison. It was just that the arrangement of the medicine could be refined into medicine or poison. The final effect of the medicinal liquid was still a kind of medicine poison, but the medicinal liquid that she was refining now was both medicine and poison. Depending on the different ways of taking it, She could make it poison or medicine, if she wanted it to be medicine. What could evil Dr. Gui Tong use to compare with her? Medicinal pills? Gee, those medicinal pills that were sold in the Blackfield city of Eastern Fence Country might not be refined by the other party herself. What's more, ordinary medicinal pills couldn't neutralize her ultimate medicine to ultimate poison. Even if evil Dr. Gui Tong was really an alchemist, how high could her alchemy level be? The true inheritance of an alchemist was not in this true spill continent. What evil Dr. Gui Tong knew was only the tip of the iceberg. Feng Yuan was very proud. She proudly looked at Luo Qingtong, her eyes sweeping over everyone present, and said, "Now you know what true strength is?" Evil Dr. Gui Tong? Ha! Feng Yuan coldly smiled, clearly showing her contempt for Luo Qingtong. There was complete silence all around. If it was just now, her sneer would have caused everyone to attack her and laugh at her for overestimating her own capabilities. However, at this moment, everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the cultivator, who was rolling and screaming on the arena. The poison that erupted from the other party's body was so obvious. It wasn't there just a moment ago. Moreover, his injuries. This competition was supported by the people of the Dark Domain. It was absolutely impossible for the other party to tamper with it. That was to say, the other party had really turned her medicinal liquid into poison after curing that martial artist's injuries. Heavens! This alchemy skill was simply heaven-defying. The other party's reputation as a heavenly doctor was not undeserved. Her alchemy skills were actually so fierce. Just as everyone was stunned by Feng Yuan's move, Yi Zichen suddenly spoke. Chapter 725. She walked straight to the martial artist who was wailing and rolling on the stage. She raised her hand and handed over the bottle of medicinal liquid in her hand. "Drink it." Seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, Feng Yuan sneered. Her heart was filled with disdain. "Evil Dr. Gui Tong, the medicinal liquid that you refined is the most trashy medicinal liquid. Don't talk about curing my poison. It's not even certain if it will be effective on him. You don't have any other ideas, so you came here to play to the gallery?" Feng Yuan's heart was filled with disdain. She didn't believe that Luo Qingtong could use that bottle of medicinal liquid to cure her poison. Only she knew about the fusion and transformation of the medicinal properties. Luo Qingtong definitely couldn't see through it in a short period of time. Not to mention using a bottle of trash-like medicinal liquid to detoxify his own poison. Even if Luo Qingtong added the best things into that medicinal liquid, it wouldn't be as effective. After all, the other party's medicinal liquid's grade had already determined that its improvement was limited. Luo Qingtong was bound to lose this round. However, just as her voice fell, that martial artist who had been tortured to the point where his life was worse than death had already grabbed the bottle of medicinal liquid that Luo Qingtong had handed over and drank it in one gulp. He had no other ideas now. He could only use Luo Qingtong as his last life-saving straw. Evil Dr. Gui Tong's medical skills are unparalleled. She will definitely be able to save me. As he thought so, he drank the entire bottle of medicinal liquid in Luo Qingtong's hands without hesitation. "Humph," Feng Yuan sneered. The other party was just struggling on his deathbed. The medicinal liquid that Luo Qingtong refined was of such a low grade. To him, it was just like drinking plain water. When this person died from the poison, he would know how laughable his thoughts were. Hoping that evil Dr. Gui Tong would use her low-grade medicinal liquid to save him? More like a dream. However, as Feng Yuan was thinking this, the martialist's body suddenly stopped moving. "Humph, dead." Feng Yuan looked at Luo Qingtong with a happy expression and sneered. "Evil Dr. Gui Tong, you've lost." Seeing the martial artist's body suddenly stop twitching and rolling on the stage, Feng Yuan raised his head high. "Really? Look again." Luo Qingtong looked at her indifferently. "Humph. No matter how much you look." Feng Yuan's voice suddenly stopped. Her face was filled with shock as she looked at the warrior, who suddenly stood up from the ring. The woman's face was flushed red, and her body, which looked like black earthworms crawling all over her body, was no longer there. The wounds all over his body had also completely healed. He was actually fine. "Look, the poison is gone. Oh my God." Evil Dr. Ghost Eye is indeed the most powerful. This is the ultimate medicine that has been turned into the ultimate poison. She can actually cure it. She's really too powerful. The crowd below the stage had already gone completely crazy when they saw this scene. They were shocked by Feng Wuan's methods before. And now they were shocked when they saw Luo Qingtong cure the poison. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye was indeed different from the rest. She could even cure this kind of heaven-defying method. In this world, other than those reclusive and rare peerless doctors, who else could be her opponent? The crowd cheered loudly. When Feng Wuan saw this scene, he couldn't believe it. Impossible. There's no way that bottle of trash medicine of yours can cure my poison. Chapter 726. It's true that I didn't cure your poison. As she spoke, she lifted her eyes to look at Feng Wuan, and the smile on her lips was unbridled. I did reverse your poison. As Luo Qingtong's voice fell, the surrounding voices instantly fell silent. What did Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong say? The crowd below the stage was indescribably shocked. It seems like she said that she reversed the heavenly doctor's poison, a warrior murmured. Haha, are you kidding? Did you hear wrongly? The heavenly doctor's hand can turn ultimate medicine into ultimate poison. It's already good enough that Lord Evil Doctor can cure the poison. How is it possible? Before the other warrior could finish his words, his voice was stuck in his throat. He looked at the scene in the arena with a shocked expression. Boom! All of a sudden, an extremely powerful medicinal strength erupted from the poisoned martial artist's body. Under the effect of this medicinal power, the warrior's aura instantly soared. Boom! 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 As the aura in his body broke through layer by layer. In the next second, with a pop, the aura around his body seemed to have broken out of a cocoon and suddenly soared. Martial Ancestor Realm. That pinnacle martial emperor powerhouse had shockingly risen to the martial ancestor realm under such circumstances. Everyone could clearly see that what that warrior drank was indeed the low-grade medicinal liquid refined by Luo Qingtong, which only had a trace of weak spiritual energy. Therefore, that majestic medicinal power was definitely not the effect of that bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid. Therefore, ultimate poison turned ultimate medicine. The poison that the heavenly doctor's hand put in that warrior's body was completely reversed. It turned into a majestic and vast medicinal power, which directly allowed that warrior to benefit from a disaster. His aura soared, and he broke through to the martial ancestor realm. Oh my god! Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong actually did it. Ultimate medicine turned to poison, then turned to medicine. Oh my god, this is definitely a pinnacle battle between alchemists. And Lord Evil Dr. Gui Tong's move is simply amazing. It's not just amazing, it's simply unprecedented and will never be replicated. Any expert who was slightly knowledgeable about the situation let out a series of exclamations at this moment. Not for other reasons, but Luo Qingtong's skill was clearly superior to his when it came to the transformation of ultimate medicine and ultimate poison. Feng Wuan's transformation was because she was the one who refined the medicine. Naturally, she knew the details, and also knew what method to use to reverse it. Don't think that she lifted something heavy in the arena like it was light. Who knew how many times she had practiced it in private? But Luo Qingtong, on the basis of Feng Wuan ultimate medicine to reverse poison from ultimate medicine. What she used was a completely unknown opponent's medicine. In addition, the bottle in her hand was a low-grade medicinal liquid. She completed this kind of reversal. Oh my god. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. They simply did not know how to react. Feng Yuan was also dumbfounded. Ultimate poison to ultimate medicine evil Feng Luo Font. T's use a low-grade atoans. How did she do it? Feng Yuan looked at Luo Qingtong, her eyes filled with disbelief. But this time, she couldn't even utter the word impossible. If Luo Qingtong used that bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid to neutralize her poison, she could still suspect that the other party used other methods. But ultimate poison to ultimate medicine was something that couldn't be resolved even if she used other methods. This was a genuine contest of alchemy skills, and Luo Qingtong completely crushed her. She used extremely precious medicinal herbs, and refined medicinal liquid of heaven grade and above. The poison after the reversal was shocking, but Luo Qingtong only used a bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid to reverse her poison. Chapter 727. Second round, Evil Dr. Gui Tong wins. A voice announcing Luo Qingtong's victory resounded from the stage. Evil Dr. Gui Tong Darren. How did you manage to use a bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid to reverse the poison? The crowd of pharmacists looked at Luo Qingtong with burning eyes. Luo Qingtong's move was really too powerful. It wasn't something an ordinary person could do. They couldn't even imagine it. They had no idea how Luo Qingtong did it. Luo Qingtong looked at them with a smile that wasn't a smile. It's very simple. As long as you can purify that bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid a second time, it'll be fine. That's to refine medicine on top of the medicinal liquid. Luo Qingtong's bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid looked like it was still the same bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid. In fact, when she handed it to that martial artist, she had already used her eye technique to remove all the impurities inside. With Luo Qingtong's ability, that bottle of low-grade medicinal liquid was only left with a poison that could be compatible with the poison in that martial artist's body. Under such circumstances, when the other party drank that bottle of medicinal liquid, it naturally reacted with the poison in his body, directly reversing and synthesizing a new medicinal liquid. As long as they could see through the poison in the other party's body and remove the medicinal properties in the medicinal liquid, they could also achieve this. However, that wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Remove the medicinal properties? Refine medicine on top of the medicinal liquid? My God! Everyone was already gasping in amazement when they heard this. Not to mention the eyesight needed to see through the poison and medicinal properties in the other party's body. Refining medicine on top of the medicinal liquid required a terrifying amount of control over the medicinal properties and the stability of the medicinal liquid. Everyone thought about it and realized that if it was them, they would definitely not be able to do it. They immediately admired Luo Qingtong even more. Feng Wuan also clenched her teeth for a while. She had previously said that Luo Qingtong relied on opportunistic tricks to win the previous round. This time, Luo Qingtong ruthlessly slapped her face back. If this kind of medicinal skill could be said to be opportunistic, then the difficulty of being opportunistic was too great. Moreover, she had originally thought that Luo Qingtong had only refined a bottle of trash medicine in the previous round, so she would definitely lose this round. However, he was ruthlessly and accurately slapped by the other party. How could her medical skills be so amazing? Damn it! If she had known, she would have used that trump card. Feng Wuan gritted his teeth and looked at Luo Qingtong. The girl also raised her eyebrows and looked at her. Luo Qingtong was dressed in men's clothing. Standing there, she looked extremely enchanting and charming. She slowly walked in front of Feng Wuan and slightly raised her face, covered by the Rakshasa ghost mask. The corners of her lips curled up as she looked at the white-robed man opposite her and said, "Best of 3 wins. Heavenly Divine Doctor, I still have to thank you for going easy on me. It would be impolite for a rotten piece of wood like me to refuse. I will kindly accept your cauldron and heavenly water jade heart lotus." As soon as Luo Qingtong's words came out, Feng Wuan's face instantly flushed red and her blood rushed to her head. Previously, she ran to the city lord's mansion and said in front of Luo Qingtong that she and the other party were rotten wood and good wood. She also said that Luo Qingtong, this rotten piece of wood, was not worthy to stand beside Ming Zun, and that she, this good wood, was the most suitable. This time, she was slapped in the face by Luo Qingtong. Not to mention that she lost 2 rounds in a row, she was still crushed. Feng Wuan's heart was filled with hatred, and her entire body trembled. What was called humiliation? This was called humiliation. In front of everyone's eyes, in front of everyone's eyes. Chapter 728. Not only that, she had also lost 2 treasures. The heavenly water jade heart lotus, and the square immortal cauldron. She had personally delivered these 2 items to Luo Qingtong. Thinking of this, Feng Wuan felt a fishy sweetness in her throat, and she was about to vomit blood. She fiercely pinched her palms, looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "Evil physician Ghost Eye, I want to compete with you again." Previously, she had underestimated her opponent. This time, she would definitely not. That trump card of hers could definitely defeat Luo Qingtong. "I'm not free." Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows, turned around and prepared to leave. She had already gotten the items, and she had more or less crushed her opponent. She had no time to play house with her opponent. Those two items, the Heavenly Water Jade Heart Lotus and the Square Immortal Cauldron, she had to go back and study them properly. How could she have the time to dawdle with her opponent? If not for the fact that this heavenly doctor had paid a sufficient price previously, Luo Qingtong would not have bothered with her. Evil physician Ghost Eye. Seeing Luo Qingtong turn around and prepare to leave, Feng Wuan gritted her teeth so hard that they were about to break. Since when had she been ignored like this? She would definitely return all the humiliation that the other party had given her in a while. Thinking of this, Feng Wuan's eyes suddenly flashed with a stern look. Within it, a faint purplish-green color flashed past. "You and I will compete again. This time, we won't compete in anything else. Let's compete in identifying herbs with a mask, and see who can identify more herbs. How about it?" As she spoke, she looked at Luo Qingtong with a cold smile. "Aren't your medicinal skills unparalleled? Then your ability to identify herbs is definitely above mine. If you win this round from now on, I will avoid you like the plague when I see you. In the future, I will never step into the black field again, and I will never appear in front of Ming Zun again." When Feng Wuan said this, she was also ruthless. This time, she would definitely be able to defeat Luo Qingtong. She did not believe that she would not be able to defeat her opponent with her extraordinary eyes. Luo Qingtong looked at her and raised her eyebrows. Just as she was about to say something, a voice suddenly entered her ears. Luo Qingtong's expression instantly changed. Not interested. She turned to leave after saying that. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Seeing that she was about to leave, Feng Wuan instantly became anxious. "Are you scared? This time, I will definitely beat you. If you have the ability, then accept the challenge. Otherwise, even if you won the previous 2 rounds, I don't think you're better than me. That's your business." Luo Qingtong didn't even bother to look at her. "It doesn't matter if you're willing to admit that you're inferior to me. As for me being afraid of you," Luo Qingtong leaped up. "Wait till you can do what I just did to turn poison into medicine. Then you can talk to me about this." As she spoke, her figure disappeared from the arena. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Feng Wuan's heart was filled with embarrassment. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Luo Qingtong's words were really a slap to her face. She wanted to provoke Luo Qingtong into competing with her in the 3rd round, but Luo Qingtong didn't accept it at all. She directly used the result of the 2nd round to slap her face. Unfortunately, Feng Wuan couldn't do anything about it. If she was able to do what Luo Qingtong did just now, why would she even think of using the 3rd round to make a comeback? This evil Dr. Ghost Eye was really too hateful. She was obviously deliberately humiliating her like this. Feng Wuan's heart was filled with hatred to the extreme. The whispers around her, and the mocking and disdainful gazes directed at her made her feel extremely embarrassed. Not only did she fail to slap the face, she was also slapped. This was her current situation. Feng Wuan came to the main city of the Black Field in high spirits, wanting to replace Luo Qingtong. Chapter 729. "Let's go!" she shouted with shame and anger on her face. Sooner or later, she would return all of this humiliation to evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Just you wait. The group of people fled the Black Field main city, in a sorry state, like a pack of stray dogs. Luo Qingtong, after a few leaps, suddenly appeared at a corner of the wall behind the Black Field main city's city lord mansion. "Grandfather, where are you going?" Looking at a certain sneaky figure lying on the wall, Luo Qingtong's face was full of helplessness. "Ah, Qingtong. Ouch." Luo Laoi, who was lying on the wall and secretly preparing to climb over, suddenly heard Luo Qingtong's cry and was startled. Before he could turn around, he missed a step and fell down from the several meters high wall of the city lord mansion. "Grandfather." Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong flung her sleeve and hurriedly rushed over to catch Luo Leoi. This prevented him from falling flat on his face. Cough, cough, cough. Qingtong, you're back? Luo Leoi stood at the corner of the wall, his eyes darting left and right, unspeakably guilty. That's right. If I didn't come back, where were you going? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and asked him. She had already taken off the Rakshasa ghost mask on her face, and her long hair was also let down. She casually tied it into a bun on the side, looking playful and cute. In just a moment, Luo Qingtong changed from an androgynous, devilishly charming and peerless youth to an enchanting and beautiful young lady. She held her Rakshasa ghost mask, crossed her arms, and stood there looking at her grandfather with a pair of slanted eyebrows. Just now on the stage, she received a transmission from the Blackfield main city's City Lord Mansion, saying that Luo Leoi seemed to want to secretly leave the City Lord Mansion, so she hurriedly rushed back. No. Luo Leoi's gaze darted even more. I just want to, yes, go out for a walk. I just want to go out for a walk. He slapped his thigh and said confidently, Grandpa just wants to go out for a walk. It's so boring. Do you have to make such a big fuss? You almost scared me to death. Is that so? Luo Qingtong looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. Climb the wall and go out for a walk? You even brought a package with you? As she spoke, she fixed her gaze on the bag that old Master Luo was carrying. Old Master Luo's face twitched as he looked at the evidence of him running away from home. Yes, I am leaving. Seeing that he couldn't hide it any longer, Grandfather Luo gritted his teeth and squatted on the ground. Qingtong, don't bother about Grandfather. This matter, you can't do anything about it. Old Master Luo's voice was muffled. Thinking of the news he had just heard about the Empress Dowager's groom selection in the City Lord's mansion, his heart felt stifled. He knew that Luo Qingtong brought him to the Blackfield main city to help him. But he was no longer young, and he didn't have the strength. How could he match her? Even if Luo Qingtong could ask the Blackfield's power to help him, Grandfather Luo's heart wouldn't be able to get over his own hurdle. Not to mention, in short, don't bother about Grandfather. Qingtong, you've been running around too much for Grandfather's matters. You've even delayed the matters at the Holy Court of the Empire of Qin. Go back quickly. Grandfather is fine. I'll go out for a walk. Don't think about your grandmother's matters, so there should be no problem. Grandfather Luo's expression was desolate. He really didn't want to implicate his granddaughter and make her busy for him. Chapter 730. Okay. Seeing him like this, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and agreed immediately. She took her Rakshasa mask, turned around and said, Hey, I've already gotten the complete pill formula and medicinal ingredients for the pill you took before. I wanted to restore Grandpa's youth. And I've also thought of a way to increase your strength. I guarantee that you'll be able to amaze the world. But since you're not willing, then forget it. Grandpa, you can go. She patted her butt and prepared to leave. However, after taking 2 steps, Grandpa Luo jumped to his feet and pulled him back. Qingtong, are you telling the truth? Master Luo looked at Luo Qingtong excitedly. You're really? He stuttered for a long time. Really? Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded, her eyes full of smiles. Grandpa, I've already found the missing ingredient. I'll be able to refine the pill for you soon. Then you'll be able to regain your youth. As for your strength, I have a way to increase it, so that you'll be able to use the power of the sage state. Luo Qingtong looked at old Master Luo's shocked face with his mouth agape. She smiled and asked, Grandpa, are you still going to give up? Give up my ass. Master Luo was about to be stunned by his precious granddaughter's words. She could restore his youth, and let him use the power of the sage state. Oh my God! If it wasn't for his precious granddaughter, who always kept her word, Master Luo wouldn't have believed it. But since it was his granddaughter who said it, Master Luo slapped his thigh. Go. Let's go back. Qingtong, how much time do you need to refine the pill? And what about increasing my strength? How do you do it? Can I make it in time for your grandmother's Empress Dowager's groom selection? He dragged Luo Qingtong back to the City Lord's manor, his heart filled with indescribable excitement. He could become younger, and he could possess strength. Yanxi, wait for me to marry you. I'll do everything I can to stand by your side. I'll make it in time. Grandpa, you should rest well and conserve your energy. Luo Qingtong looked at Old Master Luo's excited face and smiled. Then she said, when I help you increase your strength, the effect will be the best. All right. Luo Qingtong's words were more effective than anything else to Grandfather Luo. Hearing this, he immediately went back to his room. He swore that if his granddaughter didn't call him, he wouldn't come out and jump around. After sending Old Master Luo away, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold and the smile on her face faded. What's going on? She looked to the side and asked, did something happen to Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu? Otherwise, his grandfather would not have been so disheartened and wanted to sneak away. Sir, there's news from the Great Yong Sacred Dynasty. After hearing that Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu is looking for a husband, the 7th Prince of Great Yong has publicly expressed his love for her and is willing to give up all the honor and power in the Great Yong Sacred Dynasty to go to the Great Chu Sacred Dynasty to ask for Empress Dowager Yanxi's hand in marriage. At the place where Luo Qingtong was looking at, a figure of a strong man from the Black region appeared. Grandpa must have heard this news, so he left. Great Yong Sacred Dynasty. Chapter 731. Her index finger tapped on the Rakshasa ghost mask in her hand. This was interesting. She had just found out that Princess Feng Wuan of the Great Yong Dynasty was the one who had plotted against the original owner of this body. Now, the 7th Prince of the Great Yong Dynasty was coming to steal her grandmother. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Give me the information on the 7th Prince of the Great Yong Dynasty. Also, see who else accompanied him to the Great Chu Sacred Dynasty. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She wanted to see if Princess Feng Wuan of the Great Yong Dynasty would come or not. If she came, she wanted to meet the first princess of the Great Yong Dynasty, the first genius. Yes. Hearing this, the expert of the Black Field disappeared in front of Luo Qingtong. At the same time, Feng Wuan returned to the residence in the city where she had been hiding. Looking at the white robe and mask she had taken off, she could no longer hold back the violent anger in her heart. With a bang, she raised her hand and swept the pile of things, including everything on her table, to the ground. Crackle! There was a crisp sound of shattering. The group of maidservants and guards who followed Feng Wuan did not even dare to make a sound. They all lay motionless on the ground, waiting for Feng Wuan's anger to pass. Rumble! Feng Wuan raised her hand and directly flipped the square table in front of her to the ground. The table fiercely smashed into a maidservant who was kneeling on the ground. The latter let out a muffled groan, forcibly withstanding the violent force, not daring to cry out in pain, even a little bit. Feng Wuan's eyes were red. Standing in the midst of the mess, she looked like an evil spirit who had crawled out of hell. She panted, thinking of the humiliation she had suffered in the main city of the Black Field today. She clenched her fists so tightly that she almost broke her finger bones. At this moment, she seemed to feel something and raised her hand to let everyone in the room leave. Master! After everyone left, Feng Wuan respectfully bowed his head and called out. A wisp of green smoke suddenly appeared in front of her. That wisp of green smoke suddenly transformed into a faintly discernible human silhouette in midair. Yes, the green smoke replied in a low voice, then said, Where's my square immortal cauldron? Take it out. Master has found a way to open the first layer. Perhaps it will allow you to break through the limits of an alchemist earlier and become an alchemist. Before he could finish, Feng Wuan's expression suddenly changed. Square immortal cauldron. Master, Feng Wuan clenched his teeth, unable to speak. His heart was filled with extreme regret. If she had known that her master had a way to open the four-sided immortal furnace and help her become an alchemist, she definitely wouldn't have used the four-sided immortal furnace as a stake. But now, the square immortal cauldron had fallen into the hands of the evil doctor, Ghost Eye. Feng Wuan's fingernails dug deep into his flesh when he thought about how he had not only lost a person, but also a treasure. What's wrong with you? Where's the four-sided immortal furnace? The wisp of green smoke also felt that something was wrong with her mood. Immediately, the smoke rolled and shouted sternly, "I!" Before Feng Wuan could finish speaking, the wisp of smoke had already searched her entire body, but it did not find any trace of the four-sided immortal furnace. Then, the smoke transformed into a large palm and slapped her hard, causing her to fall to the ground. Bastard! Chapter 732. Do you know what kind of treasure that square immortal furnace is? When I gave it to you, I told you to take good care of it and not make any mistakes. The treasure within that square immortal furnace is extremely precious. I went through innumerable hardships to obtain it, and my soul almost scattered. Otherwise, how could I have fallen to such a low-level continent? How could you lose it? You deserve to die. As that wisp of blue smoke spoke, it instantly slapped towards her. That aura was wild and furious, not holding back at all. If Feng Wuan were to be struck by this slap, even if she didn't die, she would be severely wounded. It could be seen just how furious the other party was. Master. Seeing this slap, Feng Wuan's heart chilled. She quickly shouted out, I didn't lose that square immortal furnace. It was stolen by someone else. She clenched her teeth, twisting the truth and saying, the other party is an alchemist in the black field that no one dares to approach. I am not her match. She saw the square immortal furnace and forcefully stole it away. Master, give me some time. I will definitely take that square immortal furnace back. As Feng Wuan spoke to hear, she fiercely clenched her teeth. Losing to Luo Qingtong this time was the greatest shame of her life. Not only had she been humiliated and crushed in front of everyone, but she had also lost her treasure. She thought about how she had always wanted to break through to become an alchemist, but the square immortal furnace could actually help her become one. She felt a burst of regret in her heart. Blackfield alchemist? Hearing Feng Wuan's words, that wisp of blue smoke instantly stopped. She's actually someone from the Blackfield? As that wisp of blue smoke spoke of the Blackfield, there was a deep dread in her voice. Feng Wuan lowered her head, her eyes dark and gloomy. Just like this wisp of blue smoke disdained everything in the True Spill continent. However, towards the Blackfield dark supremacy, she was extremely afraid of the Blackfield. With such fear, how could Feng Wuan not have suspicions? The strength of Ming Zun in the Blackfield was definitely beyond her imagination. That was why Feng Wuan was so obsessed with Yi Qianxian. Otherwise, with her arrogance, why would she be so persistent with a man who spoke so bluntly to her and didn't even want to meet her? Yes, Master. The other party is highly valued by the Blackfield's underworld supremacy. He has a revered status in the Blackfield. I was truly powerless and was unable to protect the square immortal cauldron. Please forgive me, Master. Humph. Since he's from the Blackfield, then forget it. The wisp of green smoke snorted coldly when he heard this. Then he said, fortunately, the things inside the divine cauldron are not things that ordinary people can obtain. Even if they fall into the other party's hands, it won't be a big deal. But you still have to get that divine cauldron back as soon as possible. Don't disappoint me again. Yes, Master, please rest assured. Feng Wuan lowered his eyes and said, seeing the wisp of green smoke disappear in front of him, Feng Wuan slowly stood up with his hand on his chest. He raised his hand to wipe off the bloodstains on the side of his lips. His eyes were filled with a sinister light. Evil Dr. Gui Tong. How long until 7th Imperial Uncle and the others arrive? She transmitted her voice to the person outside the door. The 7th Imperial Uncle and the others have already traveled day and night. They should arrive at the Great Chu sacred capital within 3 to 5 days. The guard outside the door said respectfully, very good. Let them move faster. She must have the Great Chu sacred dynasty in her hands. When the two dynasties merged, she would have the opportunity and bargaining chips to settle the score with evil Dr. Gui Tong. Evil Dr. Gui Tong, don't think that just because you have the Blackfield's underworld supremacy protecting you, I can't do anything to you. That square immortal cauldron, I must get it back. The things you took from me, and the humiliation you gave me, I will definitely return them all. Chapter 733. While Feng Wuan was inwardly cursing in his heart, Luo Qingtong had already brought Little Pig to the depths of the mountains outside the Blackfield main city. This place should be about done. Luo Qingtong looked around. She had come out to concoct pills. According to the records she had read before, this youthful rejuvenation pill was already considered an immortal pill. Luo Qingtong didn't know what grade of pill it was in this strange world. Thinking of the tribulation lightning she had attracted when she first started concocting pills, Luo Qingtong felt that it was necessary for her to find a secluded place to concoct pills. As for the Blackfield main city's City Lord mansion, although it was safe, it was too big of a target. Moreover, people die for wealth, and birds die for food. Although the Blackfield's deterrence was great, it couldn't withstand the temptation of greed. If someone really wanted to take the risk, the Blackfield main city's City Lord mansion wouldn't be safe. After all, who knew how many hidden experts there were in the Blackfield main city? Luo Qingtong had found the heavenly water jade heart lotus for her grandfather, so she naturally wouldn't allow any mistakes to occur during this concoction. Therefore, after some consideration, she came to the mountain range outside the Blackfield main city. The mountains here were stacked on top of each other. Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered with blood-red light. Soon, she found a suitable place for concocting pills. Luo Qingtong set up a formation in the surroundings. Then, she raised her hand and took out the square immortal cauldron. Whoosh! The square immortal cauldron shrank in Luo Qingtong's palm. It was only the size of a palm. However, when it was placed on the ground, it instantly grew with the wind. With a whoosh, it became dozens of meters tall. The ancient and boundless aura around it spread out in all directions as it grew. What's the origin of this immortal cauldron? Luo Qingtong looked at Little Pig and asked. This fellow had been asking her to take down the divine cauldron ever since the cauldron appeared. He seemed to be very familiar with it. You don't know this, but legend has it that this divine cauldron is a treasure left behind by a divine king. The treasure left behind by that divine king is inside. Little Pig said mysteriously. And that's not the most important thing. Most importantly, it was said that this treasure contained clues related to the God King's inheritance and treasure trove. But after so many years, no one has found it. So you know how precious this divine cauldron is. That heavenly doctor definitely doesn't know how precious this divine cauldron is. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't compare this divine cauldron with you. Little Pig chuckled mischievously as he spoke. Everyone has gone crazy searching for this thing outside. I never thought that it would appear in the true Spill continent. You're lucky to have met someone who doesn't know what's good for you. If that heavenly doctor knew that this divine cauldron was such a treasure, yet she gave it to you herself, I wonder how much blood she would vomit. Who told her to be so arrogant? Now she was a fool, wasn't she? Little Pig was amused as he thought about this. He had been angry at that heavenly doctor's provocation, but now, he wished that there would be more fools like her, who would complain about having too many treasures. Divine King's treasure? Luo Qingtong looked at the square immortal cauldron, her eyes flashing. Her eyes instantly turned as red as blood. Eye technique activated. In this blood red, Luo Qingtong saw that there were 3 layers underneath the square immortal cauldron. Chapter 734. However, those things in the interlayers were filled with a dense energy. Luo Qingtong couldn't see it clearly at all. She had only activated her eye technique for a while, before she felt a piercing pain in her head. The light in her eyes dimmed in an instant. There are indeed things inside, but I'm not strong enough to take them out for the time being. Let's wait until later, Luo Qingtong said as she deactivated her eye technique. After a while, her eyes returned to normal. We're not in a hurry anyway. The divine cauldron is already in our hands. When your strength increases in the future, we can take those things out. Little Pig said. Even if we take them out now, you might not be able to use them. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. Let's refine pills first. As she spoke, she raised her hand and set up one array formation after another around her. Following her movements, one array formation after another took shape. First layer array, second layer array, third layer array, sixth layer array. Luo Qingtong set up the strongest array she could and let Little Pig stand guard at the side. Then she began to refine pills. With this square immortal cauldron, Luo Qingtong no longer had to worry about the cauldron exploding. She only had to pay attention to the changes in the medicinal power. Because she only had one stalk of heavenly water jade heart lotus, Luo Qingtong was very careful when refining pills. Swoosh! She activated the eye technique in her eyes and stared at the huge cauldron at all times. Following the changes in the medicinal power of each ball, her hands' movements constantly changed. Stalk after stalk of medicinal herbs were purified into medicinal liquid by her and thrown into the square immortal cauldron to undergo a second fusion. Streams of rich heaven and earth energy were absorbed into the square immortal cauldron. As the time for Luo Qingtong's elixir refinement progressed, dark clouds started to gather in the sky. Those dark clouds shrouded the valley she was in layer by layer. The dark clouds pressed down on the city, threatening to destroy it. A storm was coming. As for the other places, it was cloudless. What's going on? Near the mountain range, many people looked at this scene in amazement. At this moment, on a mountainside not far from the canyon where Luo Qingtong was refining pills, a handsome youth bathed in blood suddenly emerged from behind a huge rock. The man's face was gorgeous, and he had both the feminine charm of a woman and the masculine aura of a man. He had a pair of sword-like eyebrows that were slanted upwards. They were obviously extremely robust, but the corners of his eyes were filled with a beautiful color. There was a mole under the corner of her eye, which made her even more charming. What's that? His blood-stained fingers were propped up on the boulder. His aura fluctuated between strong and weak. His breathing was sometimes heavy and sometimes weak. Anyone could see that he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. The birth of a treasure? Or something else? Looking at the scene of the black clouds pressing down on the city, the light in Yu Sihuang's eyes kept changing. In the next second, he suddenly gritted his teeth and rushed toward the area covered by the black clouds. No matter what it was very likely to be his only chance of survival in his current situation. Rumble! As Luo Qingtong continued to add medicinal power into the cauldron, the heaven and earth energy contained in the square immortal cauldron was already extremely large. As for the black clouds in the sky, they were hanging lower and lower. Chapter 735. Holy sh*T. Where did this woman find this pill recipe? This tribulation cloud is so scary. Little Pig stared dumbfoundedly at the incomparably thick black clouds in the sky that were about to press down on their heads. Even when Luo Qingtong refined the spirit awakening pill for the first time, such a terrifying tribulation cloud didn't appear. At that time, the tribulation cloud only appeared after her pill had taken shape. Now the pill hadn't even taken shape, but it was already gathering? He didn't know if that woman would be able to withstand it. However, with the life and death yin-yang sword, she should be fine, right? It's best if she's fine. Little Pig hadn't recovered his strength from the last time he revealed himself. If something happened to Luo Qingtong now, it would be troublesome. If he forced himself to reveal himself, he might suck her dry and severely damage her foundation. While Little Pig was thinking, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and threw the last drop of heavenly jade heart lotus medicinal liquid into the cauldron. Because she didn't need to worry about the cauldron exploding, Luo Qingtong refined all the medicinal ingredients she used this time. This way, a successful pill would have a higher retention rate of medicinal efficacy and better effects. Luo Qingtong naturally used all her strength to refine the pill for Luo Qingtong's grandfather. Swoosh! She threw the last drop of medicinal liquid in her hand forward. With a boom, the entire square immortal cauldron trembled slightly. In the next second, a five-colored aura suddenly spread out from the cauldron. Then, more and more five-colored aura suddenly rushed out and condensed above the cauldron. At the same time, the heaven and earth energy in the cauldron suddenly contracted. Under the effect of some mysterious heaven and earth law, it changed the medicinal properties of the balls of medicinal efficacy and fused them together to form an even more powerful medicinal effect. Immortal Qi. Oh my God! Little Pig was completely dumbfounded as he looked at the five-colored light above the cauldron. He knew Luo Qingtong's pill was definitely not ordinary, but immortal Qi, it was too terrifying. This woman really didn't play her cards according to the rules. Who could refine an immortal pill at her level? Even if she was using a divine cauldron, it would be the same. At most, it would have a higher retention rate, a stronger effect, and a higher success rate. But this immortal pill, the fusion of medicinal properties, was extremely complex and terrifying. How did Luo Qingtong do it? Little Pig had always thought that as Luo Qingtong's cultivation increased, her frightening ability would weaken. She wouldn't be able to scare him so much that his little heart would beat wildly again. But looking at it now, it was nothing. This woman was always so perverted and terrifying. Fortunately, her strength was still weak. Otherwise, wouldn't she be swept away in minutes? It had never seen such a perverted and terrifying woman. His talent was as if he was born for cultivation. Luo Qingtong had no time to pay attention to Little Pig. The amount of heaven and earth energy gathered in the four-sided immortal cauldron had reached a terrifying level. If this was not a four-sided immortal cauldron, it would have exploded again. Luo Qingtong focused all her attention on the four-sided immortal cauldron. She paid close attention to the fusion of medicinal efficacy and the situation of the heaven and earth energy pouring into it. At this time, she couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Otherwise, this huge ball of medicinal efficacy would be wasted. Rumble. The clouds in the sky were getting lower and lower. The rumbling sound inside was getting louder and clearer. Chapter 736. This is. Yu Si Huang was shocked as he looked at the girl sitting cross-legged on the opposite side of the mountain wall. In front of her was a huge cauldron that was constantly emitting multicolored aura. Immortal aura? This young girl, she's concocting pills? The dark clouds in the sky were caused by her refining the immortal spiritual pills? Yu Si Huang was shocked. The girl seemed to be only 15 or 16 years old. Her face was like a peach blossom, and her beauty could topple cities. Her red dress was extremely enchanting. Sitting cross-legged and surrounded by the immortal aura emitted by the cauldron, she was like a goddess that descended from the 9 heavens. Even though Yu Si Huang had seen all kinds of enchanting and charming women, he was still shocked by Luo Qingtong's beauty. Humph. The moment Yu Si Huang broke in, Luo Qingtong immediately sensed him. She didn't expect him to be able to ignore the array she set up and directly break in. Luo Qingtong could not find the time to do so, and immediately shouted. Little Pig also reacted when he heard Luo Qingtong shout. He rushed toward Yu Si Huang, who broke in. He didn't know how this person avoided Luo Qingtong's array and broke in. But Luo Qingtong was at the crucial moment of refining pills. She absolutely couldn't be disturbed, especially when this pill was refined by Luo Qingtong, for Luo Qingtong's grandfather to consume. Little Pig didn't dare to imagine the consequences if she was disturbed and failed at the last step. Luo Qingtong didn't flip out easily, but once she did, it was indescribably terrifying. Bang! Little Pig's 4 hooves stomped on the ground. His pink body instantly turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed toward Yu Si Huang. Wait! Seeing Little Pig rushing over, Yu Si Huang was startled and wanted to say something. Just at this moment, there was a boom. The array that Luo Qingtong had set up in the canyon was triggered. There's an array here. He's inside. Blast this formation open. Voices could be heard from outside. Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed slightly as her gaze swept past the area enveloped by the formation. Immediately, she saw numerous figures surrounding the canyon. Those people were obviously together. Each and every one of them had an extremely powerful aura. Each and every one of them was above the martial emperor level. Were these people chasing after this man? Luo Qingtong's eyes swept over the blood stains on Yu Si Huang's body. Right at this moment. Get out of my way. A voice suddenly came from outside. In the next second, boom! A majestic sound rang out, and in an instant the entire valley shook. Saint Realm Expert. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed as she felt the boundless aura. Her gaze coldly swept over Yu Si Huang's direction. Then her gaze fixed on the entrance of the canyon. There, a hole had been torn in the array she had set up. A group of people barged in. Haha, Yu Si Huang, you can't run away, right? The group of people's voices were extremely arrogant, especially the mustached man at the front. He had a complacent expression on his face. His long and narrow eyes were like a snake as he stared at the gorgeous young man bathed in blood. Chapter 737. Immortal Pill. Seeing the cauldron in front of Luo Qingtong emitting a colorful aura, the mustache man was surprised at first, but then he was overjoyed. Haha, I didn't expect to meet a genius alchemist here. And she's even refining an immortal pill. The mustache man's face was full of greed. Immortal pill. This was a legendary medicinal pill. In the entire True Spill continent, there weren't many alchemy grandmasters that could refine such a pill. At least, he had never heard of such a thing. Who would have thought that chasing after Yu Huang to this dark cloud-covered place would actually be able to bump into such a genius alchemist? This young girl was obviously a natural alchemist. At such a young age, she was actually able to refine such a pill. Moreover, she was able to refine such an immortal pill. He was afraid that even evil Dr. Ghost Eye, who was highly sought after in the Black Field, didn't have such strength. He didn't expect to run into her. Yu Huang, I didn't expect that before you died, you would bring me such a great opportunity. Haha, this alchemist, along with the immortal pill she refined, I want it all. The mustached man waved his hand and barked out coldly. You guys are in charge of killing him. Today, the future overlord of the 3 islands and 7 lands will fall here. As he spoke, he laughed and rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Little beauty. He looked at the fairy-like young girl sitting in front of the cauldron, his face filled with unspeakable pride and lust. From now on you'll follow me. I want the pill, and I also want the person. Luo Qingtong looked at the mustache man's figure rushing towards her, a bloody light flashing in her eyes. It had been a long time since someone dared to say such death-seeking words in front of her. The last person who dared to look at her with such eyes, their bones had already turned to ashes, right? Luo Qingtong coldly looked at the mustached man's sage realm fluctuations, then suddenly sent a sound transmission to Yu Huang. With your injuries, how many breaths of time can you last? Luo Qingtong's voice was faint, without a trace of anxiety or panic. It was as if the man with the handlebar mustache wasn't targeting her, and as if what she was facing wasn't a crisis at all. However, Yu Huang knew that with the young girl's current age and talent, if she was captured by the people in front of him, she would definitely be imprisoned until she died. She would be reduced to a forbidden puppet, living a fate worse than death. 100 breaths. Yu Huang calculated for a moment. With his current weakened heart meridians, and his heavily injured appearance, he could at most stop the other party for 100 breaths. However, if you give me the immortal pills in your cauldron, I can kill them all. Yu Huang gently caressed the mole at the corner of his eye. His eyes were shining as he looked at Luo Qingtong's direction. His enchanting face was filled with a domineering aura. I don't need a single breath. As long as he could cure the old illness in his heart meridian, killing these people would not take more than a breath. Yu Huang's lips carried a smile, enchanting and charming. But his eyes were filled with ruthlessness. If he didn't have an old illness, how could he be taken advantage of by a group of jumping clowns and forced into a desperate situation? As long as he could recover, these people would all die, including those who betrayed him. The pills I refined are useless for the injury in your heart meridian. You don't have to think about it. Seeing through Yu Huang's thoughts, Luo Qingtong's voice was faint. Chapter 738. Good. Yu Huang's eyes were burning. He wouldn't believe Luo Qingtong's words if it was any other time. After all, how could a girl who was only a martial king save him from a group of martial spirit realm and a sage realm expert? Not to mention him, even she herself would find it hard to save herself. But at this moment, Yu Huang wanted to believe the girl in front of him. So what if she was lying to him? Anyway, he was already a person who was about to die. If he could prevent these people from getting what they wanted before he died, he would lose a genius alchemist and an immortal grade elixir. Why not? As Yu Huang thought of this, the smile on his face became even more devilish. But the light in his eyes became even colder. Boom! He raised his hand and pointed at a certain point in his heart. In an instant his aura exploded again. His aura, which was originally so weak that it was flickering between light and darkness, completely exploded at this moment. In the next second, his figure was like a butterfly's wings. His sleeves fluttered as he rushed toward the mustached man who was rushing toward Luo Qingtong. "Your opponent is me." As he spoke, Yu Huang's figure had already blocked in front of the mustached man. Boom! His purple robe was soaked in blood, which made him look devilish. With a swoosh, he opened his sleeves and his aura was like a wave. In an instant, he blocked the mustached man's path. "Humph! Yu Huang, you're already an arrow at the end of its flight. How long can you last by forcefully increasing your strength with a forbidden technique? After 100 breaths, you'll die a more miserable death." Being blocked by him, the man with the handlebar mustache was furious. He raised his hand and attacked him. Rumble! In the sky, one after another, violent and terrifying auras exploded. The two's auras collided, and there was a momentum that surpassed the thunder and lightning in the sky. Under such circumstances, Little Pig's figure also jumped up and rushed toward the martial spirit realm experts, who were rushing toward Yu Huang. Little Pig's body was small, but its speed was as fast as lightning. Together with Yu Huang's attack, it forcefully stalled the opponent. Rumble! Explosions rang out one after another in the sky. Luo Qingtong was completely focused on the square immortal cauldron in front of her. The medicinal power inside was boundless and had already reached its peak. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, dozens of breaths. Boom! Boom! One after another, the power of heaven and earth poured down. The fusion of the medicinal powers inside was also becoming more and more intense. In the next second, boom! After an incomparably loud explosion, the entire four-sided immortal cauldron shook. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, clouds began to move in all directions. Streaks of 5-colored qi gathered above the square immortal cauldron's cauldron. Above it, a giant auspicious immortal beast was formed. Elixir qi into spirit. The immortal pill was formed. At the same time, rumble! The black clouds that had almost reached the ground were rolling violently. Inside, bolts of lightning that were thicker than an adult's thigh were brewing. Immortal pills. Seeing the immortal beast emerge from the four-sided immortal cauldron, the mustached man revealed a greedy and pleasantly surprised smile. "I didn't expect her to actually succeed in refining it. Haha, this immortal pill is mine." As he spoke, the aura around his body exploded. In the next second, bang! Yu Huang, who was originally relying on the last bit of his aura and strength to forcefully gather his strength, could no longer hold on and spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 739. Bang! His figure smashed heavily onto the ground. At the same time, the man with the handlebar mustache had already rushed into Luo Qingtong. Haha! Immortal elixir! Looking at the 5-colored aura that was continuously emitted from the cauldron, the man with the handlebar mustache was extremely pleased. "Hurry up and leave." Yu Huang gritted his teeth and spat out blood as he shouted coldly. His beautiful and enchanting face, which was as pretty as a woman's, was filled with anxiety. The girl's strength was only at the martial king realm, and was not a match for the sage realm. Her talent was outstanding, and her strength was not obvious. Once she was caught by the other party, she would definitely have a miserable ending. Yu Huang was not a person who had tender feelings for the fairer sex. But for some reason, looking at the girl in front of him, he did not want her to become someone else's exclusive property. Or rather, such a charming girl should not be reduced to someone else's exclusive property. "Hurry up and leave." He struggled to get up from the ground, but just as he got up halfway, he fell back down with a loud bang. The injuries on his body were too severe. Just now, he had forcefully stimulated his acupoints and used a forbidden technique. The fact that he was not dead now was already proof of his strength. Boom! Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she watched the man with the handlebar mustache rush towards her. The sage realm aura rippling from the other party's body was shocking. If it was any other time, she might have avoided the sharp edge. But now, Luo Qingtong raised her head to look at the huge dragon snake lightning dancing in the sky. The moment the man with the handlebar mustache rushed over, she opened the lid of the square immortal cauldron. Rumble! The dense immortal spiritual energy that was originally bound in the square immortal cauldron instantly surged out. In the sky, the Pildao tribulation lightning that had sensed the aura of the immortal elixir, but could not pinpoint its exact location, suddenly descended. Those violent lightning bolts that were thicker than an adult's arm danced wildly. Boom, boom, boom. Pildao tribulation lightning. Looking at the thick lightning bolts that were like dragons and snakes in the sky, and feeling the violent power of the laws of heaven and earth that was dispersing from them, the man with the handlebar mustache's expression changed drastically. What was going on? When he had rushed over, he hadn't felt the tribulation lightning. He had thought that the immortal elixir refined by the young girl had no tribulation lightning for some reason. Why did he suddenly fall down? However, even as he watched the tribulation lightning descend, the mustached man did not retreat at all. Immortal spiritual pills were hard to come by, and this young girl who could refine them was even harder to come by. He had said that if he wanted the pill, he also wanted the person. He could still withstand 2 strikes of this tribulation lightning. He absolutely could not let the person and the medicinal pill escape. With that in mind, he didn't retreat. Instead, he sped up and rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Little beauty, come with me. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a lewd smile. While grabbing the elixir with one hand, he also grabbed Luo Qingtong with the other hand. Sure. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a bloody light as she watched his perverted hand coming for her. In the next second, she slowly broke into a smile. That smile on her lips was peerless, enchanting, and absolutely moving. I'll go with you. The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips was beautiful. She raised her eyebrows at the mustached man. Then, with a flip of her lily-white hand, the youthful rejuvenation elixir was grasped in her hand. Chapter 740. What? The man with the handlebar mustache grabbed nothing but air. And before he could recover from his shock, the man with the handlebar mustache grabbed the air. Instantly, a black and white long blade appeared in Luo Qingtong's hand as she flew towards the Pildao tribulation lightning. The life and death sword. Rumble. As the life and death sword appeared, the terrifying bolts of lightning were instantly absorbed by the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand. Buzz! The divine runes on the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand lit up. In an instant, terrifying power circulated on the sword. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She looked down at the shocked man with the handlebar mustache below. She raised the life and death sword in her hand and waved it. The first move of the heaven-conquering art, seizing heaven's fortune. Boom! As Luo Qingtong launched this attack, in an instant, the sky changed color and the wind and clouds surged. The black clouds in the sky surged violently. In the next second, a sword light cut through the sky like the breaking of dawn or the waves of the sea. From the edge of the horizon, a world-shocking strike came from afar. Rumble! The entire sky was almost split into 2 halves by this sword. The black clouds in the sky were suddenly split apart. Above the sky, traces of the blue sky and the white sun appeared. The sun shone down from the thick clouds. That ray of sword light seemed to have brushed against the sunlight as it heavily cleaved onto the mustached man's body. Its momentum was vast and its form was turbulent. It was as vast as the sun, breaking through the sky. This was the heaven-conquering art. The sword light from the life and death sword, which had absorbed the power of the heavenly Dao pill thunder, was even more powerful than the sword light that Luo Qingtong had produced when she had absorbed Yi Qinxian's power. The man with the handlebar mustache did not expect that a girl in the martial king realm, who was like an ant to him, would launch such a powerful and terrifying attack. In just an instant, his body was sliced into 2 by the sword light. Half of his face was still filled with surprise, while the other half was filled with horror. These 2 emotions were intertwined on his face. In the next second, his body fell heavily to the ground, and there was no more sound coming from him. The experts in the martial spirit realm that he had brought with him had been chopped into ashes by this sword light. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Her blood-red eyes flickered as she floated to the ground. At this moment, "Be careful," Yu Huang's voice suddenly sounded. He's a soul cultivator who cultivates the power of Yin soul. As he spoke, An illusory figure suddenly appeared on the corpse of the man with a mustache. Instantly, it charged towards Luo Qingtong with a ferocious expression. "Bitch, you destroyed my body. I want to imprison you and ravage you every day." 10,000-man wheel. The face of the man with the handlebar mustache twisted as he screamed and rushed toward Luo Qingtong. A soul cultivator who cultivated the power of Yin Soul could keep his consciousness intact after death and become a ghost cultivator. However, his Saint Realm cultivation would be destroyed. Most importantly, he would lose his body. Unless he had a heaven-defying opportunity to enter the Ghost God realm and regain his body, he would never be able to transcend. At this moment, the man with the handlebar mustache hated Luo Qingtong to death. Chapter 741. A dignified Sage Realm expert was killed by a martial King Realm expert. No one would believe it if they heard about it. However, it just so happened. If he knew this slut had such a method, he would have killed this slut the moment he barged in without caring about Yu Huang, who was about to die. The mustached man thought resentfully as he rushed toward Luo Qingtong with a shriek. Although he didn't have the strength of a Sage Realm expert, his Yin Soul energy wasn't any weaker than before. Other than the fact that he couldn't use the energy of heaven and earth, his strength was the same as before. The Pildao tribulation lightning that Luo Qingtong borrowed had already dissipated. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky had already dispersed. Currently, her cultivation was only at the martial emperor realm. F***CK. This bastard is actually an expert who specializes in Yin Soul energy. This is going to be troublesome. The moment Luo Qingtong succeeded in refining the pill, Little Pig quickly hid to the side to watch the show. He knew Luo Qingtong's temperament. She always kept her word. She said she wanted to save that man, which meant she had a way to deal with these people. However, he didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be so powerful. She actually thought of using the Pildao tribulation lightning to deal with that Sage Realm expert. Luo Qingtong dared to use the life and death dual polarity sword that was engraved with God's runes. Otherwise, she would have been struck to death by the Pildao tribulation lightning. However, the effect was pretty good. It was just that the mustache man actually cultivated Yin Soul soul force on top of that, which really caught him off guard. Little Pig's heart was burning with anxiety, and he instantly rushed towards Luo Qingtong's side. No, even if I have to force myself to appear, I can't let anything happen to Luo Qingtong. As he ran toward Luo Qingtong, his body emitted a burst of light. An inverted pentagram pattern appeared on his little pink butt. Just as the pentagram pattern was about to appear on Luo Qingtong's forehead, there was a boom. A snow-white long tail suddenly emerged from the void around Luo Qingtong and coiled around the mustache man's soul that was rushing toward Luo Qingtong. Boom! Before the man with the handlebar mustache could react, his body was instantly bound to the spot. Aya! I forgot about that little white ball. Little Pig looked at this scene and suddenly used his little hoof to slap his head. What snowball? Golden flowing fire fox. Soul-devouring beast. It was currently in the midst of a metamorphosis and would not reject anything that possessed soul power, especially soul bodies that contained powerful soul power. No matter how powerful that mustache man's soul, it was still a soul. Wasn't a snowball to eat to die. Snowball, 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 snowballs, little snowball. Ah! The mustached man's soul was shocked. He felt that his body was no longer under his control. That long milky white tail firmly bound him. Even though it wasn't very strong, he couldn't break free. I've met my nemesis. The mustached man's face instantly turned ashen. He never imagined that Luo Qingtong would use the power of the Pildao heavenly lightning to kill him while he was still alive. Even after he died, he still couldn't escape the fate of death. Feeling the devouring power emitted by the long tail, and the trembling feeling, as if he had met his natural enemy, the mustache man's face was filled with despair. He was a dignified Sage Realm expert. How could he die in such a sullen manner? He couldn't even keep his soul. Chapter 742. Swish! With a fierce tug of that long tail, that mustache man's soul instantly disappeared on the spot, sucked into the void. His soul had been destroyed. His soul had truly been destroyed. Ah, that mustached man's voice was mournful. I won't let you off. Slut. I've already sent your image back to the sect through a soul technique. Just wait for our blood moon sect's revenge. We'll definitely make you suffer a horrible death. Ah. His miserable shriek disappeared on the spot, and soon, not a single sound was heard. Through the connection in her mind, Luo Qingtong could clearly see that the mustache man's soul was directly dragged into the 9-layer exquisite pagoda by the sleeping Snowball. With a smack it was eaten clean, and after absorbing his soul power, Snowball quietly grew a little. Very clearly, that mustache man's soul had completely turned into fertilizer for Snowball's growth. Blood Moon Sect. Withdrawing her consciousness from the 9-layer exquisite pagoda, Luo Qingtong slightly raised her eyebrows. In her mind, she didn't have any knowledge about this sect. The other party shouldn't be from the 4 great sacred dynasties. Then could they be from another region? Luo Qingtong pondered in her heart. At this moment Yu Si Huang, who was lying on the ground, suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. In an instant, the wounds all over his body burst open, and blood flowed out. But after 100 breaths of time, the forbidden technique in his body backfired, and his previous injuries exploded. At this moment he was on the verge of death. Bang! His body fell to the ground, and in an instant he lost consciousness. He's still breathing. Luo Qingtong swept over, probing his aura, and raised her hand to feed him a bottle of medicinal liquid. Then, after thinking for a moment, she narrowed her eyes, and with a flicker of blood-red light, she saw through his heart veins. Yu Si Huang's heart veins had old injuries. She didn't know when he got injured, but at this moment, the 2 heart veins were completely glued together. With such injuries, it was no wonder that he was unable to display his full strength. Luo Qingtong thought of the scene where he was seriously injured, but still stopped the mustached man and the group of martial spirit realm experts. She immediately raised her eyebrows. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The mustached man probably thought that this man was dead for sure, so he dared to shout for revenge before he died. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. Revenge? All right, she would give him a chance to take revenge. But it was not for them, it was for this man. If this man was fine, would the Blood Moon sect still have the time to find trouble with her? Luo Qingtong raised her hand and fed Yu Si Huang a bottle of life-saving medicine. He waited until all the wounds on his body had healed and his aura had stabilized. She immediately took out a dagger and slit open his chest. She began to treat the injury on his heart meridian. Luo Qingtong began to peel off Yu Si Huang's 2 arteries. This man usually drank a lot of medicinal liquid, but this kind of injury had to be removed directly. No amount of medicinal liquid would be of any use. But how many people dared to perform this kind of surgery? Not to mention it involved the heart meridian. The slightest carelessness would cause the heart meridian to break, and it would be a death sentence. All right, let's go. After spending almost 2 hours, Luo Qingtong finally peeled off Yu Si Huang's 2 arteries. Chapter 743. Empress Dowager Yanxi. Above the main hall, a group of people greeted Empress Dowager Yanxi, Great Yong's 7th prince. Looking at the arrogant middle-aged man at the front, Empress Dowager Yanxi's voice was cold. 7th prince has come from afar, and must be very tired. Please rest early. The ambition in the other party's eyes was obvious. She was disgusted and did not want to talk to him. However, what's there to be tired about coming here to marry the Empress Dowager? Looking at Empress Dowager Yanxi in the main hall, the 7th Prince of Yong heard the meaning in her words. The light in his eyes was cold. *TCH. I gave you face but you didn't want it. He sneered and said slowly. It's the Empress Dowager who works day and night for state affairs. This prince really can't bear it. But it doesn't matter. It won't be long before this prince can share the Empress Dowager's worries. At that time, the Empress Dowager won't have to work so hard. As soon as his words came out, the expressions of everyone in the main hall changed. Impudent. 7th Prince, what do you mean by this? Above the main hall, the officials were indignant. The other party's words clearly wanted to encroach on the throne of Great Chu. His words were so obvious, so open and aboveboard. He really didn't put Great Chew in his eyes at all. Humph. Is there anything wrong with what this prince said? Great Yong's seventh prince looked at them coldly and said proudly, in the future, as the Empress Dowager's husband, this prince naturally can't bear to see this prince's wife so tired. These things will naturally be taken care of by this prince on her behalf. What's wrong? When he said this, Empress Dowager Yin-Shi's voice had already sounded coldly. Great Yong's seventh prince really doesn't need to worry so much. The groom selection hasn't started yet. My husband may not be you. It's still too early for you to say these words. Great Yong's ambition was obvious. Even if Empress Dowager Yin-Shi randomly chose someone from the empire's family, she would not let them succeed. However, Empress Dowager's words are wrong. Great Yong's seventh prince's expression was cold. This prince admires the Empress Dowager wholeheartedly. The world knows that I even gave up my title in Great Yong Dynasty. This prince believes that everyone is willing to fulfill my wish. Seeing this prince's deep affection, they will definitely not compete with this prince again. So, he raised his eyebrows and looked at Empress Dowager Yin-Shi and the ministers of Great Chew. He sneered, Empress Dowager, be prepared that you can only choose this king. Ha! As he spoke, he laughed loudly and led the crowd away. Your Majesty. Looking at his back as he left, all the courtiers looked anxious as they all looked at Empress Dowager Yin-Shi. Great Yong's seventh prince's words clearly had a deeper meaning. Clearly, he was determined to win the Great Chew this time. What to do? Empress Dowager, why don't we send out the army indirectly? A general said at this moment. Then, under Empress Dowager Yin-Shi's gaze, he quietly lost his voice. Empress Dowager Yin-Shi closed her eyes slightly. Sending out a large army would naturally solve the problem once and for all. However, Great Yong's seventh prince had been killed here by Great Chew's army. This would inevitably cause Great Yong to mobilize its troops. Wouldn't that give Great Yong an excuse to attack? Great Yong's seventh prince dared to be so arrogant and speak such arrogant words in this hall. Wasn't he relying on the fact that they couldn't do anything to him? Not to mention sending out a large army. Even if they sent out experts, they couldn't kill him. Otherwise, Great Yong would immediately mobilize its troops. Empress Dowager Yin-Shi had already received the battle report from the border. Great Yong's army had already begun to assemble. Just after Great Yong's seventh prince moved, it went without saying who they were targeting. Therefore, Great Yong's seventh prince couldn't be killed. Chapter 744. Thinking of this, Empress Dowager Yin-Shi's heart was filled with hatred. It's all because of that bastard Prince Ning. The other party is going all out. Now I don't know what to do. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't. Old Master Luo's figure appeared in Empress Dowager Yin-Shi's heart. That day, after she ordered people to send Old Master Luo and Luo Qingtong away, she couldn't bear to abandon them and quietly chased after them. But in the end, she didn't catch up. She didn't know where they went. Empress Dowager Yin-Shi secretly checked the surrounding roads, but she didn't get any news of them. Perhaps they were completely disheartened and left here with a new face? With her granddaughter's ability, this was indeed very likely. Thinking of this, Empress Dowager Yin-Shi suddenly felt sad. This was good. They didn't need to be involved in this dispute, and she would also have no more worries. Empress Dowager Yin-Shi pursed her lips. Prepare for the worst. If there's really nothing we can do, I will sacrifice myself. The foundation of Great Chew must not fall into our hands, let alone Great Yong's hands. Without her, the Empress Dowager, Great Yong's conspiracy this time naturally couldn't succeed. Empress Dowager, you can't. When the courtiers heard this, they were shocked and hurriedly called out. Empress Dowager, you must not have this idea. If you don't stay in the palace, how can we protect the young emperor? Empress Dowager, you can't. Yes, Empress Dowager, if you're not here, the foundation of Great Chew is no different from being destroyed. Great Yong's conspiracy failed this time. There will definitely be a next time. Without you, how can we live? Empress Dowager. A group of people knelt on the ground, crying and begging. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Empress Dowager Yin-Shi closed her eyes slightly, looking tired. She didn't want to do this. But if she didn't do this, Great Chu might not be able to escape this time, let alone next time. The disaster of stealing the country. She had received great kindness from the late emperor, so she must not let Great Chu's foundation be destroyed in her own hands. At the same time, in the sacred capital of Great Chu, where the people of Great Yong sacred dynasty were staying, 7th Imperial Uncle. As soon as Lord Seven returned to his room, he heard a voice. He raised his head and saw Feng Yuan sitting at the table in the outer room. He was holding a blue and white teapot and was slowly pouring tea. Uncle has returned from the Great Chu Imperial Palace? Feng Yuan tilted his head and looked at the 7th Prince of Great Yong with a faint smile on his face. Haha. Great Yong's 7th Prince laughed heartily as he walked over. That's right. Imperial Uncle just came out of the Great Chu Imperial Palace. Humph. That Empress Dowager Yanxi of the Great Chu dynasty refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. This prince personally went to pay her a visit, but she only saw this prince once and wanted to chase me out. Why don't you think about her current situation? How much longer does she think she can stay in the limelight? The 7th Prince of Great Yong coldly stated. Originally, seeing that her looks were not bad, this prince was prepared to spare her life after entering Great Chu. Now it seems like there's no need for that. Unappreciative thing. He snorted coldly. Great Chu's Empress Dowager Yanxi's scheming ability is not weak. Feng Yuan looked at him with an indifferent expression. If Uncle wants a woman, I will naturally find one for you in the future. What can't you have? Don't keep a disaster like her. Chapter 745. These are the purine bodies that I recently found. They are all young girls, and are most suitable for you to pluck. You can enjoy them to your heart's content. In addition, I have already made arrangements in the Great Chu sacred dynasty. Other than us, all the teams that came to search for a groom have been sniped. It is absolutely impossible for them to rush over. I will wait for the Great Chu Empress Dowager Yanxi to choose you. I must win the Great Chu. Feng Yuan's voice was cold. The 7th Prince of Great Yong laughed and said, with your arrangements, we are naturally foolproof. Just as he was feeling proud, Luo Qingtong's figure had already rushed back to the main city of the Black Field. Grandfather. Luo Qingtong came to Grandfather Luo's room and handed him the pill in her hand. After eating this pill, you can recover your youthful appearance and strength. Grandpa Luo was waiting anxiously in his room. His granddaughter had left for 3 days. He was very anxious. He did not know if the pill could be refined successfully. Rejuvenation. That was not something that could be done by ordinary people. Even if Grandfather Luo did not know anything about pills, he knew that his granddaughter would not refine an ordinary pill. Otherwise, why would she not refine it in the city lord's mansion but go outside? Obviously, she was afraid of being discovered. Grandfather Luo was anxious. He was not only worried about his granddaughter's safety, but also worried that the pill was too heaven-defying and could not be refined. In short, it was not good at all. After sitting for so long, his butt was almost worn out, and walking was almost worn through a layer of skin on the ground. Luo Qingtong finally came back. Girl, are you alright? Seeing Luo Qingtong return, the first thing he did was not to look at the pills, but at Luo Qingtong. After confirming that Luo Qingtong did not suffer any injuries from refining the pill, he immediately let out a long sigh of relief. Then he looked at the pill. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong looked at him and smiled. Grandfather, quickly take this pill. Once the pill is integrated, you can recover your youth. Okay. Grandfather Luo did not say anything and directly swallowed the pill. In an instant, clumps of immortal qi emerged from his body, wrapping him into a large cocoon. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and immediately retreated. Then she had people guard this door to prevent people from inexplicably breaking in and disturbing the integration of the pill in Grandfather Luo's body. This pill was divided into 2 levels. The first was to restore one's appearance, and the second was to restore one's bodily functions. Grandfather Luo's break out of the cocoon. Of course, when he broke out of the cocoon, Luo Qingtong's knew. Luo Qingtong, Luo Luo's body, Luo luos luo o luo luo luo. Luo 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 luos luo luo o luos luos luo 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 o luo luo o o. SSS luo os's. S's luos. Luo luos is luos luo 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 luo. Empress Dowager. A general bowed and knelt in front of Empress Dowager Yin Shi and said in a deep voice, "All the teams have been attacked. It is estimated that they will not be able to reach the holy capital by the time of the competition." The general's expression was very serious. So far, only the Great Yong dynasty's 7th prince and his group had reached the holy capital. Chapter 746. This time, Great Yong really wanted to hold Great Chu completely in their hands. They actually used such a sinister plan. Empress Dowager Yin Shi's voice was cold. She closed her eyes slightly. "I know you can leave, Empress Dowager," the general said with a worried expression. "It's okay." Empress Dowager Yin Shi's voice was cold. "Don't worry. I won't give up until the last moment. You don't have to worry that I will kill myself now," she said, her eyes slightly darkening. "I won't be defeated so easily. Leave." "Yes." The general acknowledged the order and left the room. Looking at his back, Empress Dowager Yin Shi's lips twitched slightly, and then she looked out of the window. "Luotong, if I knew it would end like this, I wouldn't have driven you away." At least, before she died, she could see him and her granddaughter again. Empress Dowager Yin Shi originally thought that old Master Luo was too impulsive. For the sake of Great Chu, since the Empress Dowager's groom selection was released, and it was done by Ning Wang and the late emperor, she had to do it. At that time, she would pick out an ambitious person who was easy to control and make him a mere figurehead. In this way, the Empress Dowager's groom selection was just an empty talk. She wouldn't marry anyone, nor would she be with anyone else. But Luotong was too impulsive. Even if it was just an empty talk, he might not accept it. That was why she wanted to send him far away. This way, when the dust settled, she could go and find him again. But who would have thought Great Yong's intervention turned this situation into a dead end for her? Ning Wang's goal was finally achieved. Even if he couldn't get the throne of Great Chu, he would destroy himself. This Great Chu, if not in his hands, would fall into the hands of others. Empress Dowager Yin Shi slightly closed her eyes. If she had known, she wouldn't have sent Luotong away. They had been separated for decades, and once they met, the misunderstanding was cleared. In just a few days, they had to be separated again. This time, it was a separation of life and death. They would never meet again. Empress Dowager Yin Shi took out the green wooden hairpin that she had always carried with her in her sleeve, and gently moved the tassels on it silently. Time passed day by day. 3 days later. Rumble. In the city lord's mansion of the Blackfield main city, there was a loud explosion. Then, a figure suddenly rushed out from a room in the city lord mansion of the Blackfield main city and floated in the sky. "Haha. Ching Tong. Ching Tong. Come and take a look, Grandpa's strength has increased." "Haha." Grandpa Luo's loud voice resounded in the sky above the Blackfield city lord mansion. However, he could no longer call him Old Master Luo. At this moment, Grandfather Luo's face was resolute and handsome, and his entire body was brimming with an iron-blooded aura. The energy around his body was cleansing. He was already a martial emperor. This time, not only did Old Master Luo return to his youthful appearance, but his bodily functions were also instantly restored to their peak. His original strength of a martial king, under the effect of the enormous medicinal power, directly rose to the level of a martial emperor. In the future, his appearance would be fixed at this moment. Just like Empress Dowager Yin Shi, he would never age again. Haha, Grandpa Luo laughed happily. He originally thought that he would have to protect Yin Shi with his old and decrepit appearance for the rest of his life. Even if his strength increased in the future, it would be impossible for him to return to his youthful appearance. But he didn't expect that his granddaughter would directly refine such a heaven-defying elixir that completely reversed his fate. At this moment, Luotong could feel that his body was brimming with vitality. Chapter 747. Grandpa. Luo Qingtong heard the commotion and rushed over. When she saw old Master Luo laughing in the sky, she immediately laughed. "Grandpa, congratulations." "Ha ha ha. Congratulations to you." Grandfather Luo's face was full of joy. Coupled with his handsome and resolute face, there was an inexplicably cute contrast. He landed in front of Luo Qingtong and quickly said, "Qingtong, how is your grandma? I'm young again. Let's go to your grandma. If we're late, my wife will run away with someone else." Grandfather Luo was anxious and pulled Luo Qingtong away. The latter hurriedly stopped him. "Wait. Don't worry, Grandpa. You're not strong enough." Thinking of the news she received, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. "Don't you want to marry my grandma with your own strength?" Luo Qingtong looked at him and said, "Grandpa, this is a rare opportunity. Empress Dowager is looking for a husband. As long as you can stand out, you can marry my grandma openly." Before she could finish her sentence, Grandpa Luo yelled at her anxiously. All right. You lass, can you stop keeping me in suspense? Hurry up. Tell me what's the way. Even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire, Grandpa will go." Old Master Luo was too anxious just now, so he forgot about it. "But let's make it clear first. Will this hurt you? If it does, Grandpa won't improve his strength." Grandfather Luo pursed his lips and said, "Anyway, your grandma. I'm fine as long as I can stay by her side. I'm not asking for anything." "Aya, what are you doing? Why are you taking off my clothes? I'm young now. Don't look at indecent things, you know?" Grandfather Luo hugged his chest and struggled with all his might. Luo Qingtong was not in a good mood. "Hurry up. With that figure of yours. I saw it when you ran out of the secret passage the last time. Even the scratches on your body were not missed." Grandfather Luo's face turned red. "What do you know, you're just a child." "Ah, stop. I'll do it myself." Old Master Luo tugged at his clothes. It took him a lot of effort to regain control. He quickly took off his clothes, then used his clothes to cover half of his upper body and said, "Is this okay?" "Yes." Luo Qingtong almost could not hold back her laughter when she saw old Master Luo like this. "That's enough." She pulled old Master Luo back to his room. "Grandpa, bear with the pain." As Luo Qingtong spoke, she used her hand as a pen and poked an acupoint on old Master Luo's back. Following the drawing method of the soul map, streaks of blood-red light shot out from her eyes and slowly drew along old Master Luo's meridians. Every time he moved, old Master Luo felt as if a tendon was being pulled out of his body. Wang. Following Luo Qingtong's drawing, the power of heaven and earth in the surroundings all gathered towards her. The so-called borrowing spirit diagram was to use the human body as a refining tool and draw lines of inscription patterns on it. It would allow the human body to borrow the power of heaven and earth like a sacred weapon. This was the power of the sacred state. Luo Qingtong couldn't raise old Master Luo's strength infinitely, let alone raise his strength from the martial king realm to the sacred state in an instant. However, by using the soul map, Luo Qingtong could temporarily grant old Master Luo the power of the sacred state. This was the power of an inscription master. Chapter 748. Buzz. Luo Qingtong's fingers kept moving on old Master Luo's back. The energy required for the middle-level inscription technique was incomparable to that of the low-level inscription technique. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong's strength had reached the middle-level martial king realm. During this period of time, her strength had increased to a certain extent because she had studied the damaged sage state celestial artifacts. From the middle-level martial king realm, she had reached the advanced martial king realm. At the same time, she had also filled the 1,000-year soul luring wood with energy. After all, she had used the power of the heaven and earth tribulation thunder to kill a group of martial spirit realm cultivators. Under such circumstances, the heart of the 1,000-year soul luring wood was naturally filled with energy. Buzz. Streams of energy were channeled into the inscription lines on old Master Luo's back. As more and more inscription lines were drawn, the inscription pattern became more and more complete. Swoosh. As the last line in Luo Qingtong's hand landed and connected with the first inscription line, the inscription pattern on old Master Luo's back was completely formed. Boom! Traces of the sage state's energy were generated and flowed into the soul-borrowing diagram on old Master Luo's back. With this trace of the sage state's energy, old Master Luo could use it to activate the power of heaven and earth in the air. Luo Qingtong's strength was still weak. What she had drawn was the lowest level of the soul-borrowing diagram, which was only equivalent to the strength of a beginner sage state expert. When her strength increased in the future, she would be able to draw more powerful soul-borrowing diagrams. At that time, it could be a trump card in her hands. Moreover, there were more advanced inscription techniques above the soul-borrowing diagram. All of this made Luo Qingtong very surprised and interested. Inscription techniques were rarer than anything she had ever come into contact with. She could not imagine how the powerful Immortal Slayer Palace had been destroyed, and how powerful was the person who had destroyed them. That old man Tian Mingzi had really brought her a lot of trouble. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly. Fortunately, as long as there was a sufficient price, she was not afraid of trouble. Boom! As Luo Qingtong completed her actions, old man Luo immediately immersed himself in the fusion of power brought about by the borrowing spirit diagram. He still needed to master that strand of Saint Realm power. That way, he wouldn't be flustered when he used it in the future. The method to use it was engraved in the soul borrow diagram. The moment Luo Qingtong finished drawing it, it was integrated into grandfather Luo's mind. Boom! Boom! In old Master Luo's mind, he practiced countless ways to use the power of the sacred state. As he closed his eyes and began to comprehend these methods, the day of the Empress Dowager's groom selection that Prince Ning had released in the Great Chu dynasty arrived. In order to not give Empress Dowager Yanxi too much time to prepare and make a comeback, when Ning Wang released the news, he set the time to half a month later. Now it was time. The seventh prince of Yong immediately led Feng Yuan and a group of people from the Great Yong sacred dynasty into the Chu imperial palace. Empress Dowager Yanxi, looking at the woman sitting under the eaves of the main hall under the jade pavilion, the seventh prince of Yong's expression was proud. That pair of long and narrow eyes were indescribably teasing and complacent. I've said it before. Today, you can only choose me. He raised his head and looked at Empress Dowager Yanxi with a superior expression. Chapter 749. It's not time yet. Why are you so anxious? Empress Dowager Yanxi clenched her fists under her sleeves. Her beautiful fingers were clenched into a ball. She didn't know what she was waiting for. Previously, he had received news that all the marriage teams had been stopped outside. What's more, with the current arrogance of Great Yong's seventh prince, they must have arranged a lot of people outside the holy capital to prevent any marriage teams from entering the holy capital. This was a game between the two sacred dynasties. The Great Yong sacred dynasty was unprepared. Even if Empress Dowager Yanxi sent an army to help, it would be too late. Great Yong's seventh prince didn't need to stop those people for long. As long as they could delay until today, Empress Dowager Yanxi would have no choice but to marry him, the only candidate. Otherwise, they would be fooling the world. The Great Yong sacred dynasty could still send troops in the name of Empress Dowager Yanxi. Empress Dowager Yanxi couldn't advance or retreat. Whether she advanced or retreated, it was the Great Yong sacred dynasty's victory. The only way to resolve this crisis was to die and prove one's resolve with death. When Prince Ning released the news, he must have thought of this. He wanted to take revenge on Empress Dowager Yanxi and Great Chu. If Empress Dowager Yanxi didn't die, Great Chu would be robbed. That bastard. Empress Dowager Yanxi's eyes were cold to the extreme, and her heart was full of hatred. Since the Empress Dowager still wants to struggle, then this prince will wait with the Empress Dowager. Let's see who can stop this prince in the end. Great Yong's seventh prince sneered. He was confident in his niece's ability. Feng Yuan showed an extremely monstrous talent at the age of 12. In the Great Yong sacred dynasty, she, as the first princess, had already ruled with the emperor. In the Great Yong sacred dynasty, all the political affairs and important decisions were made by her. That royal brother of his listened to everything she said. As for the members of the imperial family and the officials, they all respected her. With his niece's ability, the position of Great Yong's empress was no longer enough to attract her. The emperor of 4 dynasties, the #1 genius of True's Spill continent, that was what she pursued. She wanted the world of Great Chu. With layers of arrangements, she would succeed. At this time, Great Yong's 7th prince still didn't know that his niece had failed once. He almost died in Prince Ning's mansion of Great Chu. If he knew, he wouldn't be so confident. Rumble. In the main city of the Black Field, Elder Luo's power had reached its peak. With a boom, the aura around his body exploded. In an instant, with the soul borrowing diagram on his back as the center, a wave of extremely vast and boundless power of the world gathered from all directions in the sky. The power of the Saint Realm borrowed the power of heaven and earth. At this moment, Old Master Luo, a martial emperor, was able to borrow the power of the law of heaven and earth, just like a saint. Oh my God! In Luo Qingtong's arms, Little Pig raised his head and looked at the scene. False saint expert. Luo Qingtong, this perverted woman. She was only a martial king. He was actually able to create a false saint realm expert. It had never seen such an abnormal inscription master. That old man Tian Mingzi should be closing his eyes now that he's dead. At the final moment of his dissipation, he was able to find such an awesome and abnormal successor. Other people might not be able to find such a rare genius, even if they search for their entire lives. Chapter 750. A person like her was born to be an overlord. A woman destined to stand at the pinnacle of this world. No wonder this woman was so arrogant and domineering when it first met her. A woman with such talent and ability would be a coward if she was timid and overcautious, okay? A true powerhouse would not lower his head, even when he was at a disadvantage. Otherwise, what was the point of having such talent and ability? What was the point of becoming stronger? Lower your head once, lower your head again and again. A true powerhouse would face adversity head-on and fight for survival. They would not lower their heads when they were in trouble. The so-called rice light and the dim light was all bullshit. If one didn't have the heart to fight to the death in the face of the strong, if one didn't have the heart to rise from the brink of death, if one didn't have the unyielding heart to laugh proudly at the world and look down on all directions, if one didn't have the unyielding heart to even the heavens, how could one become an expert? Even if one became stronger, they would only be a slightly stronger coward. Wasn't the reason why Little Pig chose Luo Qingtong as its contracted master, because she was unrestrained and unrestrained in the face of adversity? A coward was not worthy to be its master, even if it was only a sealed pink pig. However, its true form was something that even the 4 seas and 8 wastelands feared. It's done. Luo Qingtong nodded in satisfaction as she looked at the energy flowing around Grandfather Luo. Borrowing the sliver of Saint State power from the spirit map would not harm Old Man Luo's cultivation base at all. With the spirit diagram, Grandfather Luo could temporarily possess the power of Sage Realm without forcefully increasing his strength or damaging his foundation. It was enough to deal with the Empress Dowager's groom selection. She wanted her grandfather to marry her grandmother in a grand manner to make up for their biggest regret. Luo Qingtong knew that the thing Grandfather Luo regretted the most in his life was being trapped in the mountains for trusting his brothers. When he finally broke out of the encirclement, he found out that his wife and son were being persecuted. He saved his son but lost his lover forever. Grandfather Luo had never stepped out of the eastern fence in his life. He even entrusted his hot-bloodedness and heroism to the army, and didn't even care about the Luo family. Wasn't it because she was engaged to the empire, and her parents were no longer around? It was because of this that he no longer cared about his family, and didn't even care about his family. Otherwise, with Old Master Luo's past glory, how could the Luo family be in such dire straits? Luo Qingtong was going to make up for this regret. Luo Qingtong had said before that she would give her grandfather the best. Haha! Grandpa Luo's joyful voice resounded in the sky